All right, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is the December 12th, 2023 meeting. It's a hybrid meeting, so if you're dialing in, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And we are being taped by MCTV. I'm going to do a roll call since we have me, Larry, and I don't see... JJ, you there?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Brian, you there?
You have more seats down over here if anyone wants to sit down.
Thank you.
Brian, can you just say you're present?
Present.
All right, thank you. And we'll, so we can start the first one. Steve will be here shortly. So 2399 Alice Clifford. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 4-foot by 18-foot single-story addition on the property located at 201 Ridge Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel J140219 and is located in the R3 zoning district. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Carly Tobias, and I'm representing Alice Clifford for Rockwood Design. I'm seeking a special permit for an extension and alteration for a non-conforming structure to construct a 4-foot by 18-foot single-story addition. This addition is the bathroom and a closet on the left-hand side. I am here because the right-hand side is non-conforming by 8 inches, so that's really why I'm here. My addition will be conforming on the front, on the left-hand side, and by the rear. And we were approved by Conservation last Wednesday, too.
Okay. Anyone from the board have anything to say? Anyone from the audience? Seeing there's none. Andrew, we have your notes. Is that, you're good with all that?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion to close 2399 Alice Clifford, 201 Ridge Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
They both said aye. Okay. And I'm gonna, I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions. This project will require a building permit, a final as-built site plan, and a certificate of occupancy, based on the finding that the applicant's proposal to construct a 4-foot by 18-foot single-story addition to the property located at 201 Ridge Road, as shown on a site plan by Stenbeck and Taylor Incorporated, dated 9/29/23, Richard Savant, PLS, and progress set of plans by Rockwood Design, dated 9/25/23, 16 pages, meets the special criteria of the section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Night.
Uh, 23-100 Marshfield Masonic Building Association. Is someone here for this? Nancy, you see? I don't hear anyone speaking. And I'm just gonna move to 23-101 Lucetti Service Center Incorporated. In accordance with 305-1009 of the Marshfield Municipal Code, the petitioner is seeking an appeal of the building commissioner's determination that there was a violation of the town of Marshfield bylaw for an unauthorized use of the property located at 658 Plain Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel E10-0205A, located in the B2 zoning district and the Water Resource Protection District. Go ahead. Name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Attorney Steve Gard, 1165 Washington Street, Hanover, for the applicant, the appellant, and with me is Chris Luchetti. What's your address, Chris?
Home
Address,
address
yeah,
is
home address.
3 Cowings Cove, Norwell, Mass.
Thank you. Go
So,
ahead.
as you read in the public announcement, that this is an appeal of the zoning enforcement officer's decision to send a cease and desist letter to my client relative to alleging that there was a new use at the site for auto body repair. As far as background goes for this site, I think everyone knows Luchetti's Complete Auto Center is located at 658 Plain Street and has been located there since 1983, at which time Mr. Luchetti Sr. bought the property from Richard Bly, who applied for and received a special permit, site plan approval, and a variance to operate an auto body and a garage repair facility by special permit. Just so we can clear up the procedural history on the permitting of this site, as I mentioned, in 1976, the application for the variance was granted, but that variance was for lot width only and frontage. The application for a special permit was granted to operate an automobile garage and an automobile body shop on said property. The application for site plan approval was also granted. Then in 1983, this site was unanimously granted a modification to its special permit to allow for a circular driveway and 7 parking spots out front, referencing, of course, the December 1976 special permit site plan approval in the amendment and modified by Mr. Luchetti. In 1985, the same site was granted a site plan approval and a special permit amendment for Mr. Luchetti to operate a Class II auto dealership at that facility as well, again referencing the 1976 special permit. In 1989, there was a grant of a special permit and site plan approval to construct a 60 by 100 addition of the existing business, again by Mr. Luchetti, referring back to the 1976 special permit, which allows garage, automobile repair, and body shop repair. Then in 1990, a similar amend and modify the site plan for the relocation of a dumpster, paved area extension, and the relocation of used oil tanks. So that having been said, as far as the background goes, I have read through all of the minutes from those meetings, which were gratefully provided to me by the zoning office. And none of those minutes, nor none of the decisions that were recorded or granted on this site ever restricted the auto body service repair, which was originally granted in 1976. In your packet is an affidavit from Paul Luchetti, who has over 40 years' experience with the site, which clearly indicates that he purchased the property for garage automotive repair, but also for the bodywork repair. And that bodywork repair had continued to date through his son when he sold the business to his son. There is a letter in the file that mentions that Mr. Luchetti mentions that no auto body work was being done at the time. That letter, in context, it was back in 1983. And in 1983, bodywork was a totally different animal than it is today. Bodywork was, in 1983, that site still had the frame machine that bent frames back after a collision, still had all the equipment to do full collision body repair. That stuff has since been eliminated because bodywork is different today in that it is a lot of remove and replace. You can buy a door for your car or a mirror for your car and order it from the factory or the manufacturer with the same exact color that you have. So those items are unbolted and then bolted on. So there's not a lot of that kind of auto body work. So we can call it auto body work back then, major collision, and we can call what we're doing today auto body work as well. Under the state's definition of body work, we are doing that today. The light cosmetic body work that this site does for its customers, such as small dent removal, scratch repair, paint corrections, bumper replacements, mirror replacements, things like that, is still considered auto body. That is what has been done at this site for the Luchetti customers since 1983, when he took over from Richard Bly, who received that special permit for auto body repair and body shop work. Now, it's also important to note that there is no mention of auto body work in the table of uses in the Marshfield zoning code. The only mention of automotive repair is in the code. This site was granted, which, by the way, is allowed by special permit in the B2 district within which this site lies. That has been granted to this site since 1976. So I think that I'm at a bit of a loss of why we'd even be here today, because it's suggested that this is a new use, and it's not a new use. You can tell by the historical data from the permitting of this site back from 1976 that this has been a use that's been in play. The affidavit that's in that file from Mr. Lucetti clearly indicates, that's in your file, it's included in the application as Exhibit A. I'm sorry, as Exhibit B, I think it is. Nope. Exhibit E in your application clearly indicates that this has been a use that's been ongoing since Mr. Lucetti took over the site. There's a letter in your file from the police chief, Phil Tavares, attached to the appeal as Exhibit F, which clearly indicates that Lucetti's has been doing this kind of work for them in the town for almost 30 years. There is another letter in your application from the Marshfield High School Driver Education Program telling you that Lucetti's has been doing this kind of light cosmetic auto body repair for many years for their program, as well as MS Walker and Armstrong Fence. So the reason that I bring up these distinctions is that two things are in play. The enforcement letter references this new use, purported new use. So we have to look at the bylaw in two different ways. Is this a new use, or are they claiming it's a new use under the zoning bylaw? So the zoning bylaw allows this use by special permit in the district. Well, we have that in 1976, automotive repair and body work, okay? There's no other reference to body work in your bylaw, so it has to come under automotive repair. You can't tell me today that removing a mirror from a car is body work and not automotive repair. If you don't have a definition for body work, then we have to look at automotive repair as guidance. The second thing is whether or not this use was a pre-existing non-conforming use or allowed by special permit under the WRPD, which is the planning board's bailiwick, but the zoning board of appeals has jurisdiction over this because it is appeal of an enforcement order, and that would be where someone would come for a variance for the WRPD. Not that we're here for that, but nonetheless, the WRPD, the Water Resource Protection District, does cover this site, but that was implemented in 1990. I put in my narrative, which is included in your packet, it was implemented in 1990, and the zone was expanded in 1991 to include the Lucetti site. I also have with me documents from the town planning office that documents that this was in fact approved at town meeting in 1990. Now, you say, well, what does that matter, Steve? Because we don't have a special permit from the planning board for the WRPD because we don't need one, because the use pre-existed that. We're protected under the zoning grandfathering clause, the 48 Section 6 clause, that we're protected from that use from the WRPD because the use began in 1976 and the WRPD was implemented in 1990. Just like any other pre-existing non-conforming use, that use is allowed to continue with respect to the WRPD, provided that it hasn't been abandoned for more than 2 years as defined under the bylaw, which this hasn't. The evidence in your file clearly indicates that this use has been in existence in 1976, has not been abandoned, and continues to this day to serve the community of Marshfield. So rather than take up any more time, I just want to mention in closing that this is one of the longest actively run family automotive service businesses in Marshfield, and has been there for the school department as well as any municipal vehicles that were asked to be serviced. Many of the people here in this room tonight are here in support of Lucetti's 40 years of service to the community. Rather than have all of them stand up and speak, I thought it might be appropriate to just have them raise their hands. If I would ask the crowd to raise their hands as a demonstration to the board of who is here in favor of the appellant, in this case, for Lucetti's. Would you mind raising your hands if you're in favor of the appellant in this case, please? Thank you. So I would ask the board, I would turn it over to the board for any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board?
It's clearly been a body shop since the 70s. I remember Randy Bly. So. And the paperwork I see here pretty much continued the use right along.
Want to ask? Want to go, you got anything, Steve? No, I know JJ already spoke on this. Sully, you got anything to say?
Are you referring to me?
No,
No.
the other Sully.
I am not related to DJ Sullivan, as far as I know.
All right.
But I appreciate what Attorney Guard is saying about how the repair of cars has evolved over the years. I don't know how you can, in 2023, draw a distinction between car repair and body work, other than, if you're in the business of auto restoration, which this is not. From everything that I've heard and from my experience, owning cars that need repairs on a pretty regular basis, virtually all shops that fix cars are going to do some minor form of body work. Bumpers, mirrors, replacing headlamps. And the way cars are made in 2023, you can't fix a car and not do something to the body because of the way cars are manufactured. I don't, other than this being an anti-competitive play on behalf of DJ Sullivan, I don't see why they're in front of this board.
Thank you, Brian. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So, this was an original request for enforcement sometime during the summer, I believe. I can't remember the exact date, which I denied at that time because I had spoken to Attorney Guard and they had taken down any of the advertisements off of about doing body work on the website. So they were understanding the concern at that time. All of that stuff was removed. I sent a letter back to the complainant and told them that I was not going to pursue enforcement. And then a couple of months later or so, I received another request for enforcement for the same thing. But this time I was submitted a receipt for auto body work specifically, and it was for a town of Marshfield police cruiser. So I was told by town council, I was advised by town council, and that it was a prima facie violation, and that I should issue a notice of violation. And the planning board agreed. And that's why I issued the notice of violation.
Thank you. Bob, do you have anything to add?
No. I looked at the material that was provided to me today, and the only thing that I saw that was relevant was there was a 1983 letter where Mr. Paul Lucetti said that there wasn't any body work being done at this location. And what that means, I don't know. So I sent it over to Attorney Guard today. I asked him to address it with you all.
Okay.
Can I speak to that, please?
Sure.
Do you have an order to speak to that?
Yeah, of course.
Most of you know me as Paul Lucetti,
Microphone.
so I have a right to speak.
Oh, yeah, you need a
Go
microphone.
there, so the people can hear you.
Most of you know me as Paul Lucetti, so I think I have a right to speak to the question that the gentleman raised over there and say to you that in 1983, after buying the property, I was out of money. And there was no way to set up and keep running the body shop without getting the mechanical side of that business up and running. And that's one of the reasons why it really, at that point, and I made the statement of not doing any body work, is because I wasn't set up to do that at that time. When Randy sold me the business, he took everything out of the building because he moved it to Pembroke to work out of his shop. And when the neighborhood wouldn't let him work out of his shop, he went down to the center of Marshfield, where the old Oldsmobile garage was and used that two-car garage to set up his auto body business again. And not to his credit, he decided that he had had enough, and unfortunately, he died very soon after that. So body business was a lot different then because of the grinding, the dust, the Corvettes that he repaired, and that type of stuff that we didn't do. Unibody came in, and it came in long before that, but Unibody came in and it stopped the, it created a need to do the unibody framework that required frame machines. We didn't desire to do that type of work, so we didn't buy a frame machine. Just in the last year or so, we really got a first-class, high-end paint system that's it's designed to be user-friendly to the atmosphere and the landscape and so on, so it doesn't create a lot of waste. We do such small paint work that we really don't need to keep a big inventory, but the locker system that we have for the paint work is first class and top of the line. So I'm just, was a little confused when we got shut down. My son explained to me what had happened. The gentleman that came in and viewed our area never acknowledged the fact that he was there to look at our system, never asked us any questions at all as to what we were doing and how we were doing it and whether it complied with any regulations or not. We were just shut down, period. And I assume that that was the method they used to bring this to this floor tonight. So I'd like to say on our own behalf, body work has changed over the last 40 years that I've been there. And I was glad to turn the business over to my son because I had had enough of it. But I miss my customers more than anything. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So I saw Adam out there. Adam, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair Murphy, and members of the board. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm an environmental and land use lawyer with Drowan, Tacho, and Morgan in Hingham, and I represent DJ Sullivan Collision Center, Inc. And I apologize for not being there in person. I'm homesick this evening, but I know that Mr. Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, is the president of the company, is present. And as you know, DJ Sullivan operates an auto body repair facility at 612 Plain Street and went through an exhaustive permitting process with the planning board to locate this auto body repair facility within the Water Resource Protection District. And what you need to know is that any activity which involves toxic or hazardous materials in quantities greater than those associated with normal household quantities are required to get a special permit within the Water Resource Protection District. DJ Sullivan has absolutely no issue with Luchetti's. They're well-known and they're a solid citizen in the town of Marshfield. DJ Sullivan has no problem with Luchetti's performing auto body repair work. DJ Sullivan simply wishes the town to apply its regulations consistently. I can't speak to the history of auto body repair Luchetti's. I was a little bit confused by the presentation because there are references in some of the historic documents to automotive service and repair. That is recognized as a very different activity to auto body repair, which specifically uses quantities of hazardous materials. However, something changed in the summer of 2023 based upon what we suggest is objective evidence. And that's what generated the first request for enforcement to the building commissioner on August 2nd, 2023. And there are a couple of just a couple important pieces of information. First, we attached a screenshot of Luchetti's website from August 2nd of 2023. And I'll quote it for you. Luchetti's can now repair dents to body panels and perform paint repairs. Luchetti's can now repair dents to body panels and perform paint repairs. At or about the same time, Luchetti's posted various job postings, first with Indeed on July 18th, seeking to hire an auto body technician. It's Exhibit 6 to our submittal. And then a second job posting on July 21, also seeking an auto body technician. As you heard, the building commissioner denied that enforcement. In his decision, he recognized the pre-existing non-conforming retail and service uses, but he determined based upon his investigation that there was no auto body repair use, and it sounds like Luchetti's agreed not to do it when the building commissioner visited them. For our part, we were never told that there was some argument to be made that auto body repair was a pre-existing non-conforming use in either the underlying Business 2 zoning district or the Water Resource Protection District. And I'm, again, confused by some of the historic information because there's evidence that indicates that in 1983, before the adoption of the Water Resource Protection District, which is really the operative district and the operative enforcement issue, that Luchetti's had abandoned body work. Regardless, some additional information came to light in October, and we filed our enforcement request on October 10, 2023. And again, interestingly, we attached with that letter another copy of the screenshot for the website dated October 4, 2023. Again, this is after the first request, and the website had changed. It now reads, quote, Luchetti's repairs dents in body panels and performs paint corrections. They deleted the word now from their website in October after that first round of enforcement. And we also understood that the town of Marshfield Police Department had obtained body repair services from Luchetti's, and we obtained those records. And again, we have absolutely no interest, and DJ Sullivan has absolutely no interest in preventing Luchetti's from providing service to anyone, and particularly the police department or the school department or whatnot. However, the important piece to take away from those records of those services is the description of the body work services provided. And they can't be reasonably read to constitute what I guess is being described as minor cosmetic auto body repair. If you read the invoices, the services include, and I'm going to paraphrase, mixing paint, preparing vehicle for spraying, applying multiple coats of paint and clear coat, following manufacturer's specific stages, wet sand and buff vehicles, multiple stages of cutting, buffing, polishing, finishing. Dan Sullivan will testify that this is auto body repair work. It's not minor cosmetic auto body repair. And this is the exact type of activity which is prohibited in the Water Resource Protection District, quote, because it involves toxic or hazardous materials. And in fact, if you do a little research, you'll see that auto body repairs is highly regulated both at the federal level by the US EPA as well as Mass DEP, and on the local level by the local fire department, again, because of the use of these hazardous materials, and relevant to this proceeding by the planning board, which regulates the use of activities involving toxic or hazardous materials in the Water Resource Protection District, because the whole purpose of the district is to protect the town's aquifer. This is all about management of hazardous materials and air pollution controls. Now, again, we have no beef with Luchetti's. We're not making any assertions that they're either in compliance or not compliance with all of the other regulations that are required to operate auto body repair. But you should know that Dan Sullivan was required to prove to the planning board that indeed he has all of his permits and that he's in compliance with all of these regulations in order to be able to use these toxic materials. We'll, leave it to the zoning board of appeal, to decide whether there was a pre-existing cosmetic auto body repair use in the WRPD. I don't follow the argument, perhaps in the underlying B2 zoning district, but even then, the evidence that I saw indicated that no body work had been done in 1983. And I'd just like to remind the board that on the issue of abandonment, abandonment is specifically defined under your zoning bylaws to include non-use. As you're aware, there are sort of two standards typically if adopted by a town. There can be abandonment, where a party intends to abandon. It's very difficult to prove that a party intended to abandon a non-conforming use, but your bylaw recognizes non-use. So I don't know how you reconcile Luchetti's stating in 1983 that they're no longer doing body work, and all of the evidence of activities of new work in 2023 involving toxic and hazardous materials, which are otherwise prohibited within the Water Resource Protection District. However, again, even if there's somehow a pre-existing non-conforming use within the WRPD for these activities, it's clear that the evidence suggests that Luchetti's has expanded or altered this use this past summer. And again, briefly, the evidence of that is that they're advertising a new service, they're hiring new auto body repair technicians, they're performing, certainly for the Marshfield Police Department, full-on auto body repair, auto body work involving toxic and hazardous materials. And as you know, any expansion or alteration of a non-conforming use requires authorization by special permit, and in this case, compliance with the WRPD requirements. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I just wanted to emphasize to the board that this is not personal between Mr. Sullivan and Luchetti's, and this is not being asserted for any anti-competitive advantage. And in fact, DJ Sullivan has no problem whatsoever with Luchetti's performing auto body repair work. They simply want it to be a permitted activity just like their own activity. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I get a second, Brian?
Sure.
Do you have a spray booth at your location?
No.
No spray booth? So whatever, you
Touch-up.
emphasize, you kind of downplay the amount of body work you're doing there, that it's more
Touch-up.
mirrors, bumpers, small work.
Not downplaying that
Not
we do body work.
No,
It's never been-
I don't mean it like that,
Yeah,
but.
it's just touch-up work.
I get the fact that Rainey Bly was there in the 70s and stuff, but
Let me, please.
there is a process. I can see where DJ Sullivan's coming from. They're into heavy collision work, they have spray booths. If this is the direction you're gonna go and the board feels that, then I'd like to see you go to the point of having the fire department go in. There's gonna be inspections that you're gonna need to do that are gonna be specific to the collision industry and auto repair. I'm sure you do, your location looks great, same as DJ Sullivan's does. Looks fantastic. It's an add to the community, no question about it. But, I can see the point being brought up, but, to me, I look at this, that it has been permitted since the 70s, and, the gentleman that said he stopped doing business there in 83, was that for a week or 2 weeks?
Right.
You know what I mean, a month? I don't know.
He didn't have any money.
Yeah,
He's Mr.
I
Lucetti.
understand that. So to
Yeah,
me,
he
to
did-
abandon a use
No.
would have been after a long time frame. There's
Abandonment,
nothing specific
abandonment
here.
means that it has to have not been
Sure.
available for the use either.
Yep.
So this business has been an automotive repair business
Yep.
every single day since it was permitted in 1976. It's never been unavailable for these types of body work for this shop.
Yep.
So you can't say, oh, well, they didn't do body work for 2 years. Well, maybe they didn't have any body work. Maybe
Yep.
the economy didn't let them do it. But
Sure.
it's permitted for that. It's not a pre-existing non-conforming use. It's allowed by special permit. It is a pre-existing non-conforming use as it relates to the WRPD. But again, abandonment requires that you cannot be available for this work. You can't just say, oh, You can't just say, oh, well, if, just because it's available and you didn't do any body work for 2 years, then you can't do it anymore. Well, that's not true. If you're open to the public for this type of service, then it's not abandoned.
Yeah, I
It's
get
the
that.
intent
Yeah,
of
no, I
abandonment.
get that.
that's
What I'm saying,
necessary.
if you go forward with this, there is gonna be an inspection process that you go.
Oh, yeah, he has to, they already know that. They have to comply with all the state regulations.
I'm just
The-
saying, you,
The EPA is.
again, your place is
all-
immaculate. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that
Chris knows
you're
that.
not doing what you should be doing.
Yeah, Chris,
I've had the state in by,
Well, I bet.
by
Yeah.
my phone call to them
Sure.
recently, was last week, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, doing the same inspections that you're just
Sure.
referring to.
yeah, so,
And if Mr. Brodsky's points are solely based on his review of our website a few months ago, and I'd like to know how many times he visited our website before August of 2023, because I will attest, and a few other people in this room that helped me make that website 12 years ago, that it said now a long time before you were hired, Mr. Brodsky.
so, in any event, I'll defer to the chair, but if it's appropriate for me to respond to that, to the
Sure, I
presentation
just
by
want to
Mr.
hear.
Sullivan.
DJ, did you want to speak?
No, Adam spoke. I know that DJ Sullivan. I know that there is a classification for auto body use. I believe it's miscellaneous business. I believe it's a special use. That's what that classification is. For auto body use, there is a category.
Okay. Thanks. All
Right, so I think Mr. Sullivan's referring to the miscellaneous business repair use. So you're suggesting that that is the use that's more specific to automotive repair than the actual automotive repair use in the table, table 5? It doesn't make sense to me. Automotive repair is automotive repair. The table of uses does not list auto body repair. You can call it miscellaneous business repair because it fit into the B2 to satisfy Mr. Sullivan's situation. But the automotive repair does not distinguish between fixing a mirror, painting a fender, or removing a motor. It doesn't say that. There's nothing in the definition section of the bylaw that references auto body repair or automotive repair and any distinction there too. So if,
Auto body repair falls under that.
okay, so if we're gonna go to a land court judge, I hope that we're gonna go on more than trying to tell the land court judge that miscellaneous business repair is better than automotive repairs by way of defining auto body repair in the town of Marshfield, but nonetheless. The use here clearly predates the WRPD, which was implemented in 1990, 1991. That's why it's a pre-existing non-conforming use for that. So I understand your concerns for going forward and expanding this business. Absolutely. He would have to do that and be in compliance. But for what they do now and what they've been authorized to do since 1976, they are permitted through the state and they are fully compliant with the state regulations. Automotive repair, for us to believe that this use is not allowed in the B2 district by the special permit that was issued, which clearly references auto body repair, we would have to suggest that auto body repair is not included in automotive repair, which is allowed in the B2 district by special permit. You can't do that. There's nothing in the bylaw that suggests that it wouldn't be under that category. And miscellaneous business repair doesn't connect. It's not more defined than automotive repair. And we are not arguing that we don't do body work. We're doing it. We do it. That's what we've been doing since 1976 when it was authorized, and there's never been abandoned. It's always been available to our customers. So, and to suggest that somehow we're not in compliance, Christopher already just showed that we are in compliance with the state. I have to point out that, the presentation for the request for enforcement applicant, I think it mentioned about 7 times that this isn't a personal vendetta against a fellow competitor for auto body work. It's disingenuous to suggest that that's not what this is. We don't, what else could it be? Another body shop in town is claiming that this is a new use to us and that we're in violation of the town regulations.
Well, in defense of DA Sullivan's,
Sure.
in their defense,
Yep.
he went through an extensive permitting process with his building, so.
And I'm
I
so
can
glad that
completely
you brought that
understand
up.
that he wants to make sure all the i's are dotted in
And I am-
the process. Not that I disagree with it, that I agree with it, but I can understand why
Yep.
you're
And I
here tonight.
can understand, and I think it's great that you brought that up, because it brings me to a point that I made in my narrative that's in your materials as well, is that 612 Plain Street is completely distinguished from this because it was an auto body shop moving into a place that didn't have an auto body shop.
Yep.
It didn't have automotive repair. So you can't compare that. It's apples and oranges. This is an existing automotive repair facility, complete auto care, since 1983 when Mr. Lucetti took over from Richard Bly. It's totally different. And I understand, I feel Mr. Sullivan had to go through what he went through, but now he's trying to project that onto us, an existing automotive repair facility, complete auto care, as Mr. Lucetti likes to call it, since 1983. I urge the board to vote to overturn the decision, the enforcement order from the building inspector. Thank you.
Let me just say for the record, too, these are two valued businesses in the town of Marshfield. They're both well-run, they're both clean. I think both pieces of property look spectacular compared to what they did look like. I mean, you can't compare Lucetti's to Andy's Auto Party by any stretch of the imagination. Looks fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I just want to point out too that this is not prohibited use. I agree with Attorney Guard. This is allowed under special permit in the B2 and WRPD, that we have looked at auto body specifically as a miscellaneous business repair and not as regular automotive repair and automotive service station, which we've generally considered to be like tire changes and oil changes, transmission, that type of work. It's, again, it has to do with the paint, the hazardous materials, the fiberglass, that type of work that requires the special permit, and that it's not prohibited, it just requires a special permit with both the ZBA and the planning board.
Chair Murphy, it's Adam Brodsky. I just want to clarify, this board has already determined that auto body work is, as the building commissioner stated, miscellaneous business repair and is distinct from automotive repair. And we have no issue whatsoever with automotive repair and don't contest any of those activities. The question for the board, is there actual evidence of auto body work involving toxic and hazardous materials before you, prior to the adoption of the WRPD? And I respectfully suggest that there is no evidence of that, and that activity is not a pre-existing non-conforming use, and again, just needs to be permitted. That's all that DJ Sullivan has asked. And if you don't believe us with respect to the competition issues, I'm sorry for that. We're entirely sincere about that. We welcome Lucetti's doing auto body work, provided simply permitted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I'm good.
Anything from the audience? Seeing as there's none. I'm going to move that we close 23101 Lucerti Service Center, 658 Plain Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Robert Hensley, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
And I'm going to move that we grant the appeal. I move that the board vote to grant the appeal by the appellant to overturn the decision of the building commissioner dated 6 November 2023 based on the evidence provided tonight. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Robert Hensley.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, Nancy, did that guy ever show up? Did this person ever show up from
From,
Masonic Temple?
I don't think, someone came in after, it might be. When they clear out, I just ask.
Yeah, I'll wait.
I think I've made it time to come
Oh, is he here?
When you were gonna be here, I have a handle.
So we have number A, 2398 Plum Summer LLC. Are you here? Are they here?
I don't see the Masonic Lodge is here.
What's that?
Masonic Lodge is here.
Oh, the Masonic Lodge is here? All right, I'll go back to them. 23-100, I already read it into the record. Marshfield Masonic Building Association, 412 Furnace. Name and address for the record.
I apologize for being 8 minutes late, and hopefully this will not take as long as the last one. My name is Jennifer Chase, and I am here on behalf of the Marshfield Masonic Lodge, and they are at 412 Furnace Street.
Sorry, Andrew, we're doing the Masonic Lodge. Oh, okay, you got it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, so I am here to receive approval for an 8x12 prefabricated wood frame shed to be used for collecting clothing donations to benefit the local community and the Masonic Lodge.
All right. Andrew, did you, other than the stuff you stated in here, did you have any problem with this?
Nope.
Bob? Anyone from the board? All right. Move that we close 23-100 Marshfield Masonic Building Association, 412 Summer Street. Second. Thank you, Steve.
Larry Keane, second.
Thank you, Larry. I move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for site plan approval, subject to the conditions. This project will require a building permit and a certified as-built, based on the finding that the applicant proposal to construct and maintain an 8x12 prefabricated wood frame shed for clothing donations to be located in the front of the property located at 412 Furnace Street, as shown on a marked-up site plan of the temple from original site plan with scaled-off distances, meets the performance. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
That's good enough. We have 4. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is Plum Summer LLC here? They're not here?
I don't know, they sent the site plan this morning.
What's that?
They sent me the new site plan this morning.
I'm going to move that we continue 2398 Plum Summer LLC, 76 Island Street to January 9th. Do I have a second?
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you. All right, now we have 23102 Matlin LLC, CO Sealand Corp. In accordance with Mass General Law 40B, Section 20 to 23, and 760 CMR 56074A, the petitioner is seeking to make a substantial changes and modifications to the previously approved comprehensive permit number 1650 that was remanded to the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals to consider substantial project changes to include, without limitation, increasing the number of approved units and changing the building types by constructing 8 7-unit buildings, total of 56-unit multifamily apartments, and 1 office space, requesting additional waivers as well as approve transfer of the prior permit of the petitioner to the property located at Bridle Crossing off Ferry, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel G12-2902 and is located in the R1 zoning district and the Water Resource Protection District. Name and address for the record, and go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Walter Sullivan. I'm an attorney in Norwell on behalf of the applicant. With me is Darren Grady from Grady Consulting. From the applicant team, I have Tom Dacey, Matt Dacey, Sarah Dacey, and Kevin Seelan. As was indicated, Mr. Chairman, this is here sort of a long history to this project. Back in 2016, Maitland originally received a project eligibility letter from DHCD to do a 40B project. Ultimately, it was approved by this board with revisions. It was appealed due to the conditions being unacceptable to that applicant, and it sat at HAC until this October. Around that time, my client entered into a contract to purchase the project from Maitland LLC, and it was agreed to remand the project back to this board for a revised project. My client is a residential home builder and proposes to construct a different project, fewer buildings, more units, all rental, with larger credit for the town towards its affordable housing percentage. More significantly, although it's fewer buildings, also significantly less excavation and removal of earth from the project. The original approval called for 355,000 cubic yards of material to be removed over almost a 5-year period. My clients are going to remove less than half of that amount, 150,000, in 7 to 18 months. What I would propose to do is have Darren Grady take the board through the revised plan, how we envision it going forward, and then have Mr. Dacey talk about how it's going to be built and show pictorials of the proposed project, and then we could respond to any questions if that meets with the board's pleasure.
Sure.
Thank you. So I'd ask Mr. Grady to make a presentation.
Good evening. My name's Darren Grady from Grady Consulting. The plan in front of you is it's the same 10-acre lot that was previously proposed. We have 8 buildings shown in orange up on the screen. The 8 buildings have a access road, accessing them from the right-of-way that connects to Ferry Street up at the top of the plan. It crosses Bridle Path right at that area. The profile in this area stays the same throughout for this proposed concept or proposed development. The roadway is 24 feet wide. There's the previous plan showed parking along the access road. There's only one lot at the beginning of the access road that has parking along it. Every other one has separate parking lots on either side of the building. The roadway is 24 feet wide, similar to the previous approval, and the cul-de-sac now has no parking along the cul-de-sac, but is your standard town cul-de-sac with a 20-foot wide paved area. Let's see. Utilities will include underground gas, underground electric, underground water, septic systems. Septic systems they require a nitrogen treatment unit to meet regulations. The septic systems are shown underneath the parking lots, as well as the drainage. The drainage starts on the far left of the plan. There's a building that goes parking, then there's building, and then there's the 2 septic systems there, and then building, parking, and drainage. This is done to maintain a 50-foot setback between septic and drainage. And if you follow it throughout the subdivision or throughout the development, we continue to flip-flop the septic and the drainage to maintain that setback. The profile on I think it's the next sheet, has substantially changed. So this part of the profile remains the same as the access through the right-of-way. The drainage on in the development is dramatically changed to underground galleys. The previous approval had an open basin. the open basin didn't really allow for the profile to be raised and the grade to be changed at the beginning of this, beginning of the development here. As you move to the next page, we've increased the slope to maximize the height of this roadway. We have a 6%, short 6% run, and then 2% so we can maintain handicap access throughout the parking lots in the buildings for the proposal. The existing grade to the finished grade in the previous approval up near the cul-de-sac, it was, I can't read it from here, but I believe, if I remember correctly, it's like 56 feet. Right now, the proposal in front of you brings it down to 32 feet from the existing grade to the finished grade of the roadway at the cul-de-sac. This results in drainage systems having a greater separation from groundwater to the bottom of the systems, results in the bottom of the septic systems having a greater separation to groundwater. I think the lowest septic system separation now is like 24 feet. I don't have the number as far as what previously, but it's a far cry as far as apples and oranges. The density of the development, there's 56 units. When you divide it by 10 acres, it's 5.6 units per acre. If you use the 15 acres that we are, that my clients are purchasing, 5 of the acres is going to be used for nitrogen credit. So if you use it on the density calculation, it comes to 3.73 units per acre. I think it's applicable to use it in the density calculation because it will not be developed if we're using it for nitrogen credit. So if you look at it as a whole, it's 3.73 units per acre. There was a recent project, I think, in Marshfield, Mill Creek, that is somewhere in 23 units per acre. Let's see. So we had a traffic report that was included in the application. The traffic report was updated to the 56 units by the same traffic engineer, and it's showing a total of 256 trips per day. I think it's right there. So the daily trips is 256. The PM peak hour is 45, and the AM peak hour is 40. These are below the threshold that require a traffic impact analysis for the town at 800 trips per day. And also ITE is, I think it's 100 trips. It's in the report. In this report also discusses the gravel removal. Using the 40 truck trips per day that was in the previous approval, it takes 7 months at 40 truck trips. We're proposing somewhere between 7 months to 18 months to remove the gravel in this project. By bringing the slopes up on the, by bringing the grade up in the cul-de-sac in the development, the side slopes that used to be 2-to-1 are now 4-to-1, more gradual side slopes, better stabilization. That area outside the fence that's being graded is, we're within natural heritage endangered species. That same approval that was on the similar project, on the past project, we'll be moving forward with that and working with NHESP to restore that area for habitat use. With that, I'll let Matt Dacey talk about the architecturals, which have greatly improved.
Just a few words before I ask Mr. Dacey to address the board. I just wanted to highlight the changes to this project include additional screening between our back decks, which is more privacy for the abutters. We've removed one of the buildings So there's more spacing, which we think is more attractive. As Darren alluded to, the drainage basin is now all underground, so it's not unsightly in any fashion. In fact, we've been able to add a dog walk and also a playground for the residents. Also added a gated emergency access road to the southwest. So I just wanted to highlight some of those things as well, and then ask Matt Dacey to sort of address the board if he could. Should he go to the podium, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening, Board. Thank you very much, Counselor. My name is Matt Dacey from Champion Builders. You know, my son Tom and my daughter-in-law Sarah, along with the rest of the team, and Kevin Seelan. So just pretty briefly, about 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, we completed a very similar project of the similar design, of which I have several pictures here that we could put on the easel to share with you, that we built in Kingston. It was not a 40B, but it did have an affordable element. And we felt as though these townhouse styles were very accommodating to the landscape of the site, and we know how to do it. And we've already run the test on it. It worked out pretty well for us in the town, and it's a nice project. Last week, we took some photos, and I don't know if you want me to put them in front of the stand so everybody can see them, or be happy to pass them around, or whatever.
You can put them up on the easel and.
Yeah, just to give everybody a general idea of, you know, what is this project gonna look like. So that picture there on the screen is this building right here. So that's what we do, and that's as of last week, and that's been up for maybe 3-4 years.
If you want to take some of the others, you can put them in front of here so the audience can.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great, thank you. So, both Kevin Seelan and myself have joined together on a variety of different developments and projects over the last 25 years. And most recent was some units in Marshfield at Snowy Owl, and then this particular development, which is a 40B. So just to reiterate to the board, I've been involved in probably more than 30 40Bs since back in the 1980s. So I've done several 40Bs. We've recently completed 2, one in Duxbury and one in Sandwich. And we currently currently working on 2 others, one in Plymouth and one down the Cape. So we're very familiar with the rules and regulations of the 40B process, and we know it's a process, but we know how, we're pretty well experienced in it, and currently experienced in it as well. So I just wanted to put a face behind the name and let you know that we're here. I think at this point I was going to turn it over to Kevin just to say a few words about, you know, his end of it, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Kevin Seeland, 140 Grandview, Marshfield. Obviously, I'm co-applicant with Matt. I wanted to pull out some of the comments that were brought up last night. We went to the BPW board over here in the other building, and I recognize some of the people here. So there was some, I boiled it down to 3 main issues that I thought we heard. One was water quality. So the Zone 2 aquifer, as Darren pointed out, is on this property. There's actually 2 wells that affect this property. So we've done several things in this project to improve that. Primarily the distance from the groundwater to the bottom of the system. We've more than doubled and even tripled it in some cases. So there's much greater separation from the groundwater to the bottom of the system. We talked to Gary today at the Board of Health, and he's in agreement that the D-Night systems that we're proposing to use are going to do the trick. He hasn't had a chance to review it. That'll be reviewed by Gary, I'm sure, before the next meeting. The other big thing, so I think we can address that with the other thing we've done that's inherent in the design of this is it's not one big septic system. So there's 8 smaller systems, Each one is independent of the other ones, so it'll be easier to monitor see if there's any issues project-wise, rather than have to deal with one giant system and find out what the problem is. Each system will have to be monitored. We have to pay a monitoring agent to come in. They test the system, they test the effluent, and they have to report to the state and the town. And in the first year or two, they have to do that 4 times a year, and we're going to subscribe to that program. It's required. And then year after, I think after year 3, we have to go to twice yearly. So I think those issues will address the water quality on this project. The other big thing that came up last night was traffic. So there's 2 ways you can look at the traffic. There's really during construction, and then there's post-construction. So the during construction, we've come up with a plan, which actually the last applicant did the same, to use Clay Pit Road access, which I don't know if somebody can point to where it is off the edge of the project, the back lower corner, left corner. So we're proposing that all truck traffic for the gravel removal will go through Clay Pit Road. So that eliminates a lot of the houses that will have to go by on Ferry Street during that time. We've got the town's assurances that we can do that. I think that will address a lot of the problems with the during construction traffic. Post-construction traffic, as Darren pointed out, falls well below the thresholds to even warrant a full traffic study, and I think we've got that under control. Those roads, intersections are more than adequate to handle what we're intended to do here. And I think the project, from a standpoint of logistics, with location, and that came up last night too, was some residents felt like this project wasn't appropriate for the neighborhood. I disagree. I think this is a great segue project that separates the kind of the heavy industrial and manufacturing going on Clay Pit Road and beyond from the residences on Ferry Street, along Ferry Street and the adjacent neighborhoods. It's a buffer, and it's a good one that'll be well planted, well designed, and I think it'll serve that purpose well. The third thing that was brought up was the obvious crossing at the intersection where the existing bridle path now will cross our new roadway entrance. Currently, it runs almost parallel to Ferry Street, and it crosses very near the intersection where we'll be coming out onto Ferry Street. So what we intend to do is pull that crossing further away from the Ferry Street intersection. Actually, it's a design that Ned Bangs and Greg Guimond from planning helped come up with. So by pulling that away, it allows a greater area to queue cars waiting to pull out onto Ferry Street. It pulls pedestrian traffic away from the turning action of cars pulling into the project. And furthermore, we come up with an idea. We might try and do, pending approvals, almost a Vermont covered bridge type detail at the entrance. So that would create a slowing down and a traffic calming situation. We'd do the surface of the road in boards, sort of like, the Powder Point Bridge. And I think we could put traffic control there too. As far as the pedestrians, we could do some lights or some warning blinkers or something like that, similar to what's down at what we call Pearl's Corner. So I think that those 3 main things address the chief concerns that we heard last night.
You guys have anything else?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we'd be happy to take any questions from the board or the audience.
Now I'm going to hear from the, Andrew, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. I see we have Greg here. Would you like to speak on anything? Sure. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Greg Guimond. I'm the town planner, Ice House Lane. The planning staff has reviewed the modified plans submitted to the ZBA for Bridle Crossing, which is located off of Ferry Street, adjacent to 376 Ferry Street. The property currently has an approved 40B that was appealed by the former owner applicant to the State Housing Appeals Committee. This appeal has been remanded to the Board of Appeals as of October 11th, 2023, so it's been hung up for a few years. The original submittal was for the creation of 40 apartment units and a 5-year gravel removal and sorting operation on the property. The original gravel operation was to remove 425,000 cubic yards of material. The original proposal would have lowered a portion of the site within 6 feet of the water table. The majority of the site would have been lowered to an elevation of 60, which is roughly 11 feet from the water table. This property is in the Water Resource Protection District and is approximately 2,300 feet up gradient to one of the Ferry Street wells. What has been submitted tonight, improvements from the original plan. Earth removed from the site. The ZBA, in its approval, had allowed up to 355,000 cubic yards with the original plan. The planning staff had recommended regrading of the site with a maximum of 180,000 cubic yards being removed. The new plan would remove no more than 150,000 cubic yards from the site. This is an improvement from the previous plan. Gravel sorting operation has been eliminated, and the abutters won't have to put up with the noise, dust, vibrations from an on-site sorting operation. This is an improvement from the previous plan. The site plan and design. As mentioned earlier, the parking, except for that one little area by the entrance, no longer backs directly into the development's only roadway. The site is being graded more gradually now, and the buildings are no longer placed into a deep hole abutting each other. These are improvements from the previous plan. Architectural and floor plans. The appearance of the buildings are much nicer, and the floor plans are much more generous than the previous proposal. This is an improvement from the previous plan. Crossing of the bridle path. The applicant, Kevin Seelan, has listened carefully to the safety concerns about the crossing of the bridle path and has met with the Trails Committee, engineers from the DPW, the fire department, and the planning staff, and has made changes to the entrance and the crossing of the bridle path much safer. Again, this is an improvement from the previous plan. Drinking water. The applicant has again listened to the concerns expressed by the town staff and has redesigned the grading of the property to provide 25 to 30 feet more separation between the surface elevations and the water table. In addition, the applicant will be installing enhanced denitrifying septic systems that will meet the town's Water Resource Protection District 5 parts per million nitrogen loading standard. This is a definite improvement in the previous plans. Some additional thoughts on improvements. Some screening between the back decks of each of the units for more privacy. The removal of one of the buildings and some parking on the southwest corner of the property and replace it with a playground for the residents. Adding a dog walk to the western property line. Adding a gated emergency access road to the southwest corner, which is where the gravel operation would be coming in and out of, to allow emergency access in the future, and that was based on some conversation with the fire chief. And then having the applicant keep the 5 acres to the north of the property versus turning it over to the town, which I had been pushing for, once I realized that this would help us with the GLAM calculations under 40B. And I will still need to talk with the conservation and other staff. That 5 acres is a natural heritage, has already restrictions on it, and it is a turtle habitat. But the way GLAM calculations are done with the state, the more land that's occupied by a 40B has a higher point or credit than town-owned land, which is why I've switched that thought. And then finally, for the board to keep in mind that with the approval and construction of the Mill Creek and Bridle Crossing 40Bs, the town will be over the 10% minimum affordable units required by the state. And in addition, we will be extremely close to the GLAM calculation. Now, that GLAM calculation is important because it's a land calculation that does not change every 10 years. So the 10% changes every 10 years with a new census, and towns constantly fall back into we're no longer in compliance with the state's requirements. However, the land area calculation is one and done. When we have met it, we now control the destiny of our town in the future with 40B developments. They have to work with us versus just imposing what they would like on us. That's it for me. Thank you.
How close to the land calculation are we with this?
Close.
You said,
Like 3-5 acres in that range?
that's close.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg. So now, do we have any questions from the board?
I missed the address of this project that you're using as an example. Can I get that address?
The address of what?
The Mill Creek?
Mill Creek?
It's 138 Elm Street.
138 Elm Street in Kingston?
Kingston. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everything? Or do you want to go to the audience? Do you want to say anything more?
No. I just think you gotta get your peer review.
Oh, yeah, no, he's going to come in. We'll move, when we go to the 1-9 meeting, we'll have the peer review. I just want to hear, because a lot of people came here. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Come on up to the podium, name and address.
I'm Lori Dolan, 93 Summer Street. I'd like to clarify something and then have a few comments. Both, I think it's Greg, and the petitioner stated that they had approval from the Trails Committee regarding this crossing. They have not presented to the Trails Committee. They had one person who talked with them about it. It has never gone to the Trails Committee. So I wanted to make that clarification. I'm on the Agricultural Commission, and some of the things that were brought up last night were not good for people with horses. And this directly crosses the bridle trail, which is the most used horse way in the town. It's a shrinking place for people to ride in town. So I just want to make that clear, that that's not, it hasn't been presented, and I checked the last several agendas. It was never on the agendas either. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that there's a property, it might actually abut this property, or it's a few hundred feet away, which the taxpayers paid, I don't know how much it was, but they voted on at town meeting and paid to purchase that property with the sole reason of eliminating one septic system to protect our water. And this is adding 8 much larger, because this was for a single-family home. So to me, this is a slap in the face of the taxpayers when we've already paid to remove a septic system to protect this exact same water space. Although I agree, things are better, there's more space below these septic systems. Why are we taking 150,000 yards of material away? Why can't it just be leveled and give even more space? Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Please go to the podium.
Mary Taylor, Grove Street. I am looking at these photographs. Are they apartments or are they condos? What is this that we're looking at here?
They're all apartments.
What are you looking
All
at?
apartments.
They're condos.
Yes.
So the whole fee structure is completely different than what is proposed on this property.
Oh, what she's looking
Is that correct? The fee structure, like how is this property going to be managed? I mean, if it's a rental, then you have versus a condo, which has a condo association, which has, you know, fees and management and, yeah, and it's just a whole different structure. I don't know how this particular example is relevant to this site that is being proposed as apartments how many units in here are affordable and how many units in the proposal are affordable rentals. That I know there's been things flashing up and down on the screen, but I haven't gotten an actual count. What is the proposal here? How many units will we get of affordable apartments? Anybody?
That one I think they can answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm sorry. Yeah, so these are condos, but we were only offering these for architectural style, not management or anything. These are all rental units that we're proposing. There's 14 affordable units here. The prior project was 5.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was 10. The project that
Was approved was 5.
was 5?
Yeah.
Yes. It
Out
was
of-
20, before it was 20 units. We went from 40 to 20.
Okay, my bad,
Yeah,
sorry.
it was
The
a long
paperwork's mounted up on this property in 23 years.
Right.
I also asked this board another question, which is, currently on this site has been a lot of trash for the previous 20 years. As the current owner has removed material legally, illegally, but consistently over the decades. There has also been material brought in, stumps, most recently 5 fiberglass boats that were visible from Google Earth were removed. The debris from that, they were crushed and put into a dumpster and driven out. There's all sorts of construction debris that's being hauled in on a regular basis still. Pressure-treated lumber, PVC piping, bricks, detritus from building sites. But what is going to happen on this site to clean it up? Who's testing who's testing it? The previous iterations, at one point, there was a gravel sorting machine on the very early years of that cracked my foundation, but I couldn't prove it. I just witnessed it, felt it, had to pay for the repair to my property. That gravel sorting machine remains on the property in pieces. There's just numerous trash, and certainly these photographs are much more attractive than the trash that's there. And to you, Mr. Sealand, I think you make beautiful developments. I'm just concerned about our watershed. And I've been consistent over the years with every proposal that's come through here. And yes, I don't understand how we can replace that deep, beautiful sand with septic systems and our pristine or nearly pristine water that Marshfield is so lucky to have. And our water department has done such a good job fighting to keep it that way. I mean, the whole previous earlier discussion was about a watershed protected area and industrial use on that area. So kudos to the town. I want to urge you to really consider scaling this way back. This is way too much septic in that area. That's my observation. I would like to know what the mitigation is for the cleanup on it before any construction can be done. You know, before you remove all the soil, who's going to take care of all the stumps and the debris? How is that part of this formula?
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
I have a few questions.
Name and address for the...
Laura Olson, 492 Ferry Street. My first question is, who actually owns this land right now? Because I got different information online on the assessors and on this application.
Walter can...
So there's 3 owners of the property indicated in the title history, and we have a contract to buy it from those owners.
Okay.
And he has signed the applications, if that's the question.
But you didn't tell me who it is. Who are the 3 owners?
Well, one of them's Matlin LLC, one of them's PA Trust, and, you know, the principal of all of them is Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you. The second one is, I know Mary had talked about the soil being tested. I do have photos of the boats that were there, if anyone wants to see them at any point. In the original plans, when it was a smaller development, they stated there would be 3 parking spaces per unit, and there were 20 units, so they were averaging, there could be 60 vehicles at any time. They're saying with 56 units, only 40 cars will be crossing over that bridle path. 56 units, 40 cars. What are the other people doing? There's no public transportation. You can't walk. There's no sidewalks. They talk about purchasing additional acreage, and they're adding it into this formula, but they don't own it yet. How can that be part of the formula if you don't own it yet? I can't build on my property if I claim to have more than I actually do. I have to meet setbacks and guidelines. And if they're removing fill to build this, I live right behind this. It's a hole. If you're taking fill out, how is the septic farther away from the water? I don't understand
I
that.
think they're saying that the new septic systems are farther away from the water than the previous septic systems.
Okay, but they're still near the water, our drinking water, not just mine, everyone that lives in Marshfield. This is serious, this water. And the last thing is the bridle path access. Other people on the street have asked for access and were denied. So I don't understand how this project with that many vehicles can be approved to go over the bridle path when 2 people, individuals, were both denied. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up.
All right, so my name's Mark Rowell. I'm a commercial builder too. I understand the project.
Need your address for the record.
Oh, 480 Ferry Street. I'm a direct abutter to this access that they're trying to do. It's probably about 6 feet off my property, which I have concerns. I'll talk to Walter in the future here about it. I was one of the guys who requested, we actually had an access road when I bought the property off of Hingham Institute Savings to access Ferry Street because our driveway is completely unsafe. I live on, you guys call it Dead Man's Corner. Cars go 80 to 90 miles an hour around that corner, almost kill my kids every day. So I wanted to create an access. I was denied completely. I've had multiple discussions with Mr. Armstrong about this and willing to work with you guys, but 2 feet off my property, did not get a butters letter. I'm just going to tell you that for this meeting, which is directly against your bylaws. And I would say I'm probably, besides my neighbor, the most affected by this. But I'm willing to work with you guys. You just got to talk to me about it. You can't just do it sneaky. I can play the same game you guys do. Walter knows that. So just to let you know.
Go ahead. Name and address for the record.
Jacqueline Little, 343 Ferry Street. I have a few questions here. Obviously, I've been involved in some of these other interactions over the years since 1983, when Regani was refused to have a sand and gravel operation, and both of the prior iterations of proposals for building a soccer field and building the other 40B units. I don't have an engineering degree. My engineer is at home today. He's not able to come today. But I did work on the water study that the League of Women Voters did. And my husband was one of the authors of the Water Protection District. We have serious concerns about having all of this, 8 septic systems for 56 units over one of our better aquifers in town. Some of the aquifers in town have salt in them and have to be, added in with the regular fresher water, which comes from this aquifer. This is one of the most productive aquifers. I have serious concerns, not just for the septic systems and the nitrate loading, but the runoff for cars for 56 units, which could easily be 112 cars. Now, this whole, as we know, this whole project is built on sand. Sand does not filter water the same as dirt does, okay? It just goes through it. The water, so any pollutants just go through it right to our water. So we will be drinking battery acid leaks and oil leaks and gasoline leaks. It'll be in our water, which is a huge concern for me, considering all that. Now, the other major concern for this, I am very much for affordable housing. However, the access road over the bridle bridle trail, is a serious problem. You already cannot walk on our street because we don't have sidewalks. We don't even have a shoulder to the road. Literally, there is like 9 inches from the white line to the end of the road on my part of near my house. There's no shoulder. I don't know where anyone's going to be walking. And on top of that, it is, and we have documentation of this, it is one of the most dangerous roads in the entire town, Ferry Street and Furnace Street. Now, we went on vacation this summer. While we're on vacation, the 3rd car since I've lived there drove through my front yard. 3 cars already. My telephone pole has been replaced at least 3 times. It's a very bad curve. And now you're going to have cars exiting and entering on the very curve, which is nearly a blind curve. I really don't know how you're going to do that. The guy that came through my yard at 8 o'clock in the morning, mind you, okay, when school kids are waiting for buses, came through my yard because he nearly almost hit somebody head on going the other direction, and he overcorrected. My neighbor across the street has had cars in his front yard twice because of that road. Because people come off the curve and then they're like, oh no, gee, the telephone poles are not all on the left side of the street anymore. They changed right at my house. So they want to keep the telephone poles to the left of the house, and they go through my yard. One time totaling our car that was in our driveway. Not on the street, in our driveway. So this road is a nightmare already, and now you're going to have an odd angle turn on a curve that probably doesn't have even a football length of visual access. It's just insanity to do that there. You're talking about putting trucks on Clay Pit. It's already difficult for anyone coming off of Clay Pit to get onto Ferry Street because the Furnace Street entrances, intersections right there. It's a huge safety problem. At the very least, if you're going to do this, you need to put a light on Clay Pit so that trucks could get in and out of there. Because they can't. 18-wheelers are on an off angle, all right, and at a incline. And they have to come up and turn this way and go this way to go that way. It's insanity already, and you're talking about adding more trucks to that. The kids now, not when my kids were in school, but now they have to pay to go on the buses. I think it's $300 a kid. Now, these kids in this affordable, area here are not going to maybe be able to afford to pay for buses. And I know everybody, there might be low income, below the poverty level. Some of those kids might be able to get help. There's always a gap between the kids people who can really afford it, it's no problem, versus it's a luxury. We live close enough to the high school and the grade school, not the grade school, the middle school, to walk. I've walked it, okay? I take my life in my hands when I'm walking from down Ferry Street to get to Furnace, where the sidewalks start. How are we going to address that? Those kids are going to be walking on that road with no sidewalk, no shoulder to the road, with an additional 112 cars on the road. It's a nightmare. We're going to lose children. And I don't know what price you put on kids, but I rate them pretty high. especially if it's my kid. You know, my grandchildren are moving to town next year. They're going to stay with us. I don't want to lose one to a car or a truck while they're waiting at the bus stop at the end of my driveway because someone else is distracted. Because, gee, they almost got hit by somebody coming in and out of this crazy driveway. I mean, I hate to make it so personal, but it's the reality is that's a terrible, terrible road. Doug, many of you know my husband, Doug Little, he took the time and went through the police accident records and proved that Ferry Street and Furnace is the most dangerous area in town. We have more accidents than 139, Webster Street, anywhere else in town. And you're going to add all this extra traffic and large trucks. Now, the other issue for me is the air quality. I understand that they're going to remove a lot less, and it won't be the sand and gravel, grading and sorting, which is worse. But still, it will be there, and it will be a huge problem. I have asthma, and I live right across the street from where all this is going to be going on. Never mind all the other people that live on the street that also, may have health issues or will have health issues after this. I don't understand why we need to remove any sand and gravel from that site. I don't care if you have to move it to build a septic system, do that. Move it over to that other 5 acres and just leave it there. There's absolutely no reason it needs to go out of town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. Kevin addressed, on Judy Witcher Ferry Street, Kevin addressed the trucks going down Clay Pit to remove the gravel. But what about the rest of the trucks that are gonna come in and build, the plumbers, the architectures, everybody else? Are we gonna close off that Webster Ferry Street, the road that they're building, or are we gonna have them going both ways? Just the removal trucks are gonna go down.
I think it's our intention to have all the construction.
Everything.
Including building materials.
Okay. The other thing I want to address is we're now in a walking district, the school district, as of last year. We're walkers, 2 miles from the schools, South River High School, all of them. This district will also be kids walking to school. We have no sidewalks for the kids to walk on. We're going to have a lot more kids walking through all our front yards, which is great. Maybe they'll be safer, but it's dangerous. We need sidewalks. There's
Thank you.
none on Ferry Street, none on South River.
Go ahead.
John Romero, 508 Ferry Street. My property falls right in line with this development. Can the 2 gentlemen up here, and I've been taking a lot of notes, okay? These 2 gentlemen sitting here, one is Darcy or Daisy?
No, he did the,
Okay, okay, and your name, sir?
Darren Grady?
Grady Consulting, and the other gentleman was?
Walter Sullivan, the attorney for the project.
Okay, the attorney for the project. I saw a statement that 2016, Peter Armstrong was granted from the board 40B approval. Is that correct?
2017, I believe.
17, okay. Does the board remember, well, let's go back in history, okay? And first of all, I want to thank every resident that came up, stating the obvious with water, with dust, with traffic, which there are a few things I'm going to address on that. But let's go back in history and time. Peter Armstrong acquired this property in what year? Does the board remember? Right around 2001, I believe. He came in front of the board, somewhere in that time frame. That was for a mining operation. If we go back and you look in the records, Peter came in front of the board for a mining operation where he was going to remove XX amount of sand and with no end result. When he addressed the board, he said the end project, and that was something I brought up back then, was, Peter, you're going to remove all the sand. That's great, okay? I see it's for money. You're in business to make money, such as these gentlemen are, Champion, etc. He had no end result. He was then subsequently denied, okay, to do any mining. He then got a hold of Kevin Cantwell, and Peter came back in front of this board at a later date to address doing soccer fields, okay? That fell through. That was also denied. So several years later, and there's a saying I like to use, time heals all wounds, okay? So you break your finger, whatever, it hurts, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. And all of a sudden, a year, 2, 5 years later, maybe 10, you forgot how you broke that finger, and subsequently you break it again. Because time heals all wounds. We're human. We forget things. As we heal, we forget things. I'm taking you back down memory lane because this began as a mining operation that Peter was unsuccessful in getting approval on. With that, it came to soccer fields with a very prominent individual, Kevin Cantwell. I'm going to throw names, okay? I can start swinging below the belt on Peter Armstrong on why he went 40B. I'm going to keep it above the belt and then address the board and ask you to look into this on everything possible, okay? These gentlemen here, if I ask them, have they been to the Ferry Street site, they might say yes. The lawyer might say yes. If I ask him on Ferry Street, what's the speed limit? Has he ever been down to the site or on Ferry Street? He probably doesn't know the speed limit on Ferry Street, doesn't know the terrain, doesn't know that area at all. I'm not faulting him. He's in it for business. Business, you make money. What this comes down to is the end result of Peter Armstrong forming an LLC with whomever and someone else because he got knocked down and couldn't do his mining operation. Here we are years later, time heals all wounds, to sell property to an individuals, okay, who are going to build this. This is what they show us. Well, that is Elm Street, we said? Oh, Elm Street in Kingston, okay. They bring these beautiful pictures. If you go to your Google Maps and you pull up Elm Street and you look at the top view and you zoom out, that is not anything in comparison to a Ferry Street, okay? That is off of 106. Most developments that have apartments, if we look, we can say Royal Dane, we can say Pilgrim Trails, which turned into condos. I can go on and on, the Village, whatever. You go to various towns, I'm going to say 90% of your apartments are off of main roads, state roads like a 139, not a Ferry Street. Let's go back to Ferry Street. They bring up some really good topics. We got 9 inches from the side of the road, this and that. 100% correct. That property back there was bought because Peter had one thing in mind: money, money, money. He couldn't get it, and like a little kid who can't get his candy, we go 40B to the state. I understand we need housing for people. Putting in a facility like this on Ferry Street is not a betterment. I see gentlemen standing up here and they use this word. Well, we've changed it for an improvement. Not a betterment for this town or for any individual or any part of Ferry Street, okay? That road is not meant. They talk about, well, we're going to use Clay Pit Road. Anybody who has lived on, driven down, or part of Marshfield for 40 years, such as myself, will let you know that is the Ferry Strip Speedway. Everybody coming in and out, getting a Humrock, coming out, everybody's flying. It's 25 miles an hour. You can post a sign up there of police officers day in, day out. It's not good. They talk about the bridle path, and they're going to come out Clay Pit Road. How about all of the people involved here with the board? We'll go up there. I'll buy you coffee, lunch, and dinner, and let's sit there for 8 hours, and let's look at the traffic coming out of Clay Pit Road and how many people coming over the hump or off of Furnace Street or coming towards Marshfield or racing. We're not talking small trucks, maybe some small 10-wheelers. Still pulling in and out from Ray Precast, any garbage trucks coming in and out. I've been in an accident twice of people coming off Clay Pit Road in front of my house. I pulled a kid out of a car because he was speeding in the middle of the night and saved his life when it went on fire. So I didn't want to get emotional on this in the sense that I'm trying to say this is common sense. What they're doing is just, it's money. It's greed, it's money. I understand. It looks beautiful. That, I can guarantee if I go through what they build, I'm sure it's absolutely beautiful. I own a plumbing and heating business, okay? I'm sure they're phenomenal, okay? I don't know the company. I'm not going to trash anybody. What I'm going to say is, though, let's see where the developments are. Let's see where they're located. Are they on a Ferry Street? okay? That area historically, my house is almost 260 years old in that area, abutting that land. So we're going to put in something, make it look 260 years old, make it smaller, make it nicer. If you really want to do something, you want a betterment for this town, come and say, we're going to buy this off of Peter Armstrong. We're going to put up 4, 5, 6 beautiful townhouses with less septic. If you're looking to do it, it's a project for money. That's it. So just a couple things I want to point out that I went through. If you look at the police log, marshfieldpolice.org, and you go in and you cite every time they have an issue, whether it be suspicious activity, EMS, possible fire, complaint, overdose, medical emergency, 911, or a disturbance, and you go down and you look at them, go through it and look at it, okay? There's several years there. It's very good. I picked 3 particular months of this year. I picked 1/1/23 to 1/31/23 to see what EMS, Marshfield Fire Department has to do on medical emergencies, complaints, etc. There were 66 trips they had to make to Village Apartments, Castle Green, Royal Dane, and the list goes on the apartments in the Marshfield town, okay? 66. That was having to go there. That's 66 trips down Ferry Street, coming across a bridle path. Maybe they'll allow them in the back door. You know, clay pit rope, they'll have their secret entrance, okay? That's 66 trips that all these apartments are located on 139. Do we know the speed limit up by the high school on 139, board? Or coming down in towards 3A? 45 on the upper half, 40 on the lower half. What's, Ferry Street, 25 miles an hour. So we're going to have an emergency vehicle that can get to these apartments in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, which is legal, everybody's doing it. They might be doing 50, 55 to get there because it's an emergency. Don't know the speed. I haven't done it. 66 trips, that's just 1 month. That is of January. So then I figured I'd be fair. You know, we get our bills on water and everything every 4 months. So I took it to April. I said, I'm not going to go through it. It took me some time, but I went to April. 67 trips. Figured, man, I got to be fair. You know, I find 66, 67. Let me be fair. August. You can't have that many trips, you know, to these apartments. Everybody's out. 45. And that is everything on suspicious activity, EMS, etc. Okay? I can put the average together. I'll take 12 months. I'll spend the time. I will come in front of the board and discuss how many trips are going to be coming down Ferry Street to this development, okay, that they're going to have. It's inevitable. If you have this many places and this much with that many children, et cetera, we're going to have things that they have to make a trip, correct? I think the board would say yes on that. Let's address that on top of everything else. It comes down to one thing, and I'll say it, and I'll end it at that. I plead to the board, you can hear the word improvement 10 times, 20, 30 times in a night. You can hear it in 6 more meetings. Think of one word, betterment. Is it a betterment to allow this to go on Ferry Street, theoretically a historical street? I can show you pictures because I have them all because my house is that old. Or what stops this from happening? Because the next one is going to be, well, guess what, guys? 5 years down the line, you didn't meet your quota of housing with 40B. So we're going to go up to Marshfield Hills. There's a section of land right off by the library, you know, and we're going to come in front of the board, and we need to rip that down and put some more up there just so you can go 3 to 5 years. Think about it. I just wanted to give my opinion, make my statement. I have 100 other things. I just want to let everybody go. Think about it. I just say use common sense. It's not a betterment. It is a betterment if this wasn't to be allowed and less was to be done. It's not an improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
My name is Robert Perry. I'm on 302 Grove Street, and I've been in the town since 74. And I've seen a lot of changes that have gone on. One of the things that I do want to bring up is the last time Peter Armstrong came before the board, and he proposed this 40B proposal, and there was a lot of talk about all of this water table situation. And then when he did get turned down, the board actually gave him approval to do the project without removing any gravel. Without removing any gravel. And he had no money to back him, so he obviously could not do it. So it laid until basically the current time. So in that time, I proposed to the board at that time, why can't we take the existing site, change the topography, don't remove any gravel whatsoever, and make a nice development, not 40B, not housing, but individual family houses that would improve the neighborhood. Why does it have to be 40B? Okay? The element that is going to bring in the neighborhood is going to lower the value of our properties. And basically, when our properties are, we're going to have problems with all kinds of things happening. When you have a 40B complex, as the previous gentleman just mentioned, that sooner or later, a lot of us that have been here for years are going to say, we don't want to live here anymore. We don't want to live with this crime and this element. Wondering who's going to break in, wondering who's going to steal something from our property. I mean, it really does come down to common sense. My other concern, though, is about the water table. Does the water table stay at the same level year after year? No. I've never known of any underground water table to stay at that level. It rises, it falls. I mean, obviously, these people are here for the money, okay? They're here to make the money. And I can understand they want to make the money. Why can't we develop a 40B section up around the industrial park? There's a lot of other land in Marshfield. I feel that this is basically going to take down the value of all of the neighbors in the neighborhood, and it's just not an improvement for the neighborhood, period. Absolutely no improvement. The only improvement it's going to be is, it's going to be more revenue for the town because they're going to get more tax dollars. And the people that are doing all of the construction and planning, they're going to be happy because their pockets are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But where is it going to end? I would say if this ever does get proposed, if this ever did get built, all of the gravel should remain. It should be, the topography of that area should change, and single-family houses would be put in accordance with the bylaws. That would be my suggestion. And the only other thing I'd want to add is, I honestly feel that the reconstruction of Ferry Street and the reconstruction of Clay Pit Road would be the only way to get around the safety that other people have talked about. I really do. And, I understand that people like to make money. Everybody in here likes to make money. But by the same token, at what expense to everyone else are you trying to make money? That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
I'm not as long-winded as my husband. So, I didn't hear anybody talk about, Lori Romero, 508 Ferry Street. I didn't hear anybody talk about the impact this would have on the schools in terms of South River School and the ratio of students to teachers. I've been out of school, my kids are grown now, and they used to go to South River School. But as a nurse, I've worked in the public school system, not in this town, but in the town of Sharon. And I've worked directly with kids in the classroom, and I know how the student-to-teacher ratio can impact a child's learning. You'll have 57 units at this new apartment complex, and surely you'll have kids there. And you may even have kids rotating in and out, maybe not staying long-term for the whole school year. And so kids will be, in class, and some kids will be moving in and out, and that does impact others' learning. I know we can't control everything, but that's something to consider too. And just going back to the traffic, Ferry Street is a nightmare in terms of my mailbox is across the street, and I actually wait until the nighttime, and I take a flashlight because I risk my life getting my mail every single day. And some days we don't even go get it every day because it's so busy. And my neighbors, the Pavitases, have had their fence smashed 4 times since we've lived at our location. So we've seen 4 cars take out their entire fence. So my concern would be 57 units. Would that be equivalent to the amount of cars in Roach Brothers parking lot when the green light comes on and they start flooding out? This is it. When work happens, this is what you're going to see coming out over the bridle trail, And now I walk my dog on that bridle trail. Horses ride on that trail. And I can't, even if you put a bridge up, a beautiful covered bridge and make it look like Powder Point, it's not going to be Powder Point. We have to be realistic about that. You're going to have a lot of cars in and out of there, and Ferry Street can't even sustain the amount of cars that go up and down the Ferry Street Speedway. So that's all. I wanted to, someone maybe could look into how this will impact the local elementary school and how it's going to impact Ferry Street. That's it.
How many other people want to speak here? Go ahead.
My name's Kenneth Blay, 1 Cranberry Cove. And I'd like to echo the point of the lady who just spoke about the school system. We're looking at adding 56 units. My daughter is going to South River School, and this year they got rid of a whole bunch of teachers, and so my daughter is getting less help than she did previously. And the reason is because they tell me that they don't have enough money to support hiring and keeping the teachers there. So how are we going to add 56 units? Are we thinking about this, or how are we funding those types of problems? Why are we doing this before we start dealing with those types of things, before adding more problems to it? I'll echo the same thing with the aquifers, the crime, and the gentleman talked about taxes. Sure, we'll get more tax revenues, but I hardly believe that it'll be enough to cover what's the problems that we're going to have to pay for once this comes into the town. So I'll cut it there.
Thank you.
My name's Cy Carter, and I live at 191 Ferry Street. Everything's been said, and it's just going to be repeating some of the things, but I just want to say this, that the infrastructure on Ferry Street does not support more houses. It's that simple. The road cannot handle it. There's too much traffic as it is. Cars speed down there, and I'm not saying that the police aren't enforcing it, but I've never seen one stop speeding. Furnace Street is no better, and that's where all the cars from Clay Pit Road are gonna end up going. And then you have the water problem. And the reason I say it's a water problem is because this many septic systems is gonna put 3 or 4 million gallons a year of black water into the ground. And our drinking water comes from the same ground. I don't understand how you can allow it to happen. It will be another Detroit or another Mississippi. I mean, they've had water problems because of not thinking of the future and not thinking of the consequences of some of their decisions. That's about all I have to say is, oh, and the other thing is, I do not believe 40 cars of traffic. The Massachusetts has 1.8 cars per household. So how is there going to be 40 cars? Just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything new that they'd like to add? I'll let you and then Joe.
Dave Daly, 520 Ferry Street. I just had a question. You're talking about 150,000 cubic yards being removed. Wasn't there a bylaw passed recently for no more earth removal at all? And I think John Feeney.
Greg, is there? There's no such bylaw. Go ahead, Bob.
So I think it was Mr. Feeney that amended the bylaw that said there's no more earth removal permits in a residential zone. The problem, this is a project that's not proposed under a local bylaw, it's proposed under state law, and it's not obligated to follow local rules and regulations, and they can ask for a waiver. And that's actually what's been done on the other 40B projects in town, including the 2 in the industrial park and the one that's at the Duxbury Marshfield border with single-family homes. They've asked for a waiver of the earth removal bylaw. If the town or the zoning board of appeals denies that, the Housing Appeals Committee will waive it. So the board has tried to balance that requirement by limiting the number of trucks and the number of truck trips per day so that the impact will not be as significant.
Okay, I'm just at, how many other waivers are they asking for? Nobody's just said, given us that kind of information. So, I mean, we have all these bylaws to protect our town. So now
The reason for the 40B law is because towns passed bylaws, zoning bylaws, that prevented people from locating affordable housing in the communities. So the 40B process is actually a mechanism which a developer can use to avoid having to comply with all the local restrictions.
Right, so how many of those restrictions are they bypassing here? It'd kind of be nice to know.
There's a list of waivers that the applicant has submitted that I think is available for the public to look at, and it'll probably be the subject of what the peer reviewers will talk about in a future meeting.
Okay,
We have a peer review coming in, and the next meeting will be January 9th. We'll have his information at that point.
Is any of the earth being removed to finance this project? That's another question I had. Because that's the way it was in the past.
I don't believe this project is now the same as it was before. The entire project was being financed with the sale of the materials, and the board was concerned that the applicant, with the prior version of the project, not this applicant, was going to spend that money and then be unable to construct the project. So the board had a prior condition that required all of the money from the earth removal to be placed in a constructive trust and held so that the project would be built, and only after the project was built could the money be released if there was any excess.
Okay, so are you going to have the same requirement for this project, or?
I think this project is proposing to finance the project not with the sale of materials. The project before was financed completely with the sale of materials, and there was no bank financing for a significant portion of the project.
Okay, I'm just asking that, why do they have to remove as much material when the aquifers at risk for all the removal. So that's why I was kind of asking those questions. Thank you.
Joe, go ahead.
Joe Pasevich, 25 Wilson Road. Wondering about a traffic-related issue. Does the access road, which is mentioned as a potential emergency access road in the future, where does that travel? Does it travel on the same parcel? Does it run across the same parcel? And where does it go?
I know that, Brian.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Pasevich, the town owns the abutting parcel. It's where the salt shed is located. And in the prior version of the project, the applicant then proposed to move the earth material using the access road that's down to the salt shed and come out to Clay Pit Road. So the emergency access would actually be over town property. And I think what I heard that they're proposing a gate. So if the fire department ever needed to get in there, they could. But they don't have the right to propose that as their emergency access because it's town property.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, it was talked about as being a future emergency access. The other thing is, have any financials, one other technical question. The heating plants for these buildings, is it gas-fired?
I don't know.
Most likely, thank you. The other thing is, have you seen financials? I'm sorry, financials, is that part of the application package?
I know that. So the board isn't allowed to look at the financial statements until the board proposes conditions, and the applicant objects and says that those conditions render the project uneconomic. So the board is powerless to demand that financial information until a certain process occurs. But if they object to any conditions that the board would propose, you can be sure that we'll be looking for the financials and they'll be public record for everybody to look at.
Right, because there's, Mr. Chairman, it's like there's some confusion as some people have raised the issue as like who actually owns this. And it sounds like from what I've heard that there may be a purchase and sale or at least something tentative like that in place. So that leads to my next question is, has the board yet considered, or probably town council has, is the standing of this current proponent? They don't actually own the property, number one, and number two, and how you're going to address that. And number two is the issue not just of control, but of the description of it as being a substantive change or substantial change. I mean, maybe council can chime in on that in terms of does it meet that definition? And does this proponent have the level of control that gives them standing here?
In terms of what I understand they have proposed, one thing the board is being asked to do is approve the transfer of the comprehensive permit to the new buyer. And the buyer has a purchase and sale agreement. I believe we have a copy. If we don't, we have a right to see that. So that would be available to us. In terms of substantive changes, the applicant here didn't ask for approval of these changes as an insubstantial change. The applicant conceded that by adding 36 units to the project, that was a substantial change to the project. They basically redesigned the whole project. They were taking out 355,000 cubic yards of material. No one liked that. Board hated it to begin with. Board put conditions that required the applicant originally to reduce that amount as much as possible before it could build the project. And we actually litigated this case. The case actually got tried at the Housing Appeals Committee, but before the decision was rendered, the applicant proposed to sell the project, and now the project has been sold. So this is clearly a substantial change, and that's why the board has to have a public hearing on it, and it can't approve it in a meeting.
Just to follow up on that then, does the board have to first give it standing in a sense, like agree that it's substantial and that make a decision on whether or not it's basically an all-new project, or does it somehow sort of piggyback onto the previous approval? I'm not sure about that. It sounds like this is just like...
We're starting all over, Joe.
This is all Nova, okay. Because, one thing we were told was that the clock stopped, I guess maybe the clock stopped running on the previous permit, right? So that previous permit is invalid.
That was in litigation, right, Bob? So,
Yeah, so the Housing Appeals Committee remanded the matter before making a decision back to the board.
Yeah.
But the changes are so significant that essentially the board has to start all over from the beginning. Brand new peer review, brand new public hearings. There'll be up to 180 days of public hearings if it's required. For the public's perspective, it's essentially the board's going to follow the process as if it were a brand new application.
Right. One last point is, that, again, in terms of financials, thanks for your explanation, but I hope in the financials they're going to include the profit from the soil, sand, and gravel mining operation.
They would have to.
Thanks for your help.
thank you, Joe.
Hi, Aileen LaRosa, Birch Road. I obviously echo a lot of what everybody else said, and I know you don't want repeats, but I do want to be heard for my children's sake. They ride their bikes from the back of my neighborhood through the woods and out onto Church and Ferry for a short distance, then pick up the bridle trail to safely make their way down to the town center for ice cream or the library or the skate park. And I already have my heart in my throat for that short distance for them. If this goes forward, they will be at much higher risk of getting seriously injured or killed. There are no sidewalks for the children. And in my opinion, a betterment for the town would be to add more walkability and less traffic, more safety for bikers, pedestrians, runners, joggers, horses, etc. That's why we live here, that we are very grateful for the natural resources the town has to offer. So we would like to see those conserved and preserved, all for their value, but also for safety reasons. The other thing I wanted to mention is it's not just South River Elementary, but the middle school, because there's only one. They're already strained over there. The teachers are not paid enough, and there's not enough of them as it is. And if we bring in this many children, we are straining more resources. So it's not just elementary, but the middle, and then, of course, the high school. It will go all the way up. One thing that I don't think has been mentioned is that, Massachusetts is on track to suffer some risk by like 2070 because of climate change. So this is not a time for us to be knocking down the natural environment and putting our water at risk. We are going to need it badly. We are on track to suffer some risk, low to moderate risk in Massachusetts. Our growing will change. We will be exposed to more things like disease-carrying mosquitoes and ticks, and those come with the animals who have to leave their habitats and their natural environment and start intermingling with us because we've knocked down their homes. So I think that has to be taken into consideration as well. And also, I'm wondering if Peter Armstrong, who seems to, I've never heard this guy's name before, but he seems to want this gravel awfully badly. Will he go forward with it if he can't have the gravel?
I believe he sold the property or is in the process of selling.
Mm-hmm. But all this gravel people seem to want it awfully badly. I'm wondering what's under there.
Well, it's the sand, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But He went from 355,000 yards
Yeah.
down to 150.
Yeah, but he still wants it.
And I can tell you the initial project of the soccer field was 525,000.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering what will happen if he can't have it. Maybe nobody knows. but- So I hope you'll consider what I'm saying. This is a historic town with a deep, deep history for our whole country. Daniel Webster was born here. We have the oldest house in the country right here in Marshfield. And I think commercial building and taking down things taking down the environment that gives it the New England coastal feel is a mistake, because we cannot put it back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You already went.
Well, I have one thing that I'd like to bring up that has.
Go ahead.
Chris McAuliffe, 121 Somerville Street. The educational impact has a strong foothold on me with a current second grader at South River and a 3-year-old at the new elementary school that we all know is at the corner of 3A and Furnace, where most of this traffic will go. Currently, I think we've all sat at that light when there's drop-off and pick-up at that new educational school, which is a great school, and seen the impact that it has on traffic alone as is with the new school there, let alone with trucks moving constantly day in, day out. That being said, I think we're all also familiar with the current infrastructure of Clay Pit Road. If any of us have driven off of the Grove Street way and past the dump after a nice rainstorm, you could take a 22-foot whaler through the water at that point. Add in all of this traffic of trucks and weight and everything else, just destroying the infrastructure of our roads that are already Clay Pit a mess. Add into that, in early Saturday morning, the people who wake up early and sit in line to get into the dump, that can be halfway down Clay Pit Road with people with trailers, with pickup trucks, with their own dump trucks, trying to, get rid of their own yard waste. To add this traffic to that would pretty much be a menace. So obviously I'm on board with all the other points, but I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to move, let everyone know that the next meeting will be on the 9th of January. No one will get any notification for that. And we'll do more discussion then. Oh, Jack, did you want to talk? Go ahead. Can anyone hand him that microphone? Hold on, and move that out of your way, Jack.
You mean you're going to block the view of the most handsome man in town?
That's for sure. Go ahead, name and address for the record.
John Feeney, 376 Ferry Street. My two main concerns are traffic and the aquifer. I have relatives who live in Whitman. They have to buy bottled water because the town has deemed their water supply inadequate and not up to state standards. On the issue of traffic, Ferry Street is a raceway. From my house on my porch, I can sit there, and when they have the speed sign up that says 25 miles an hour, it's constantly flashing, warning cars they're all over the speed limit. And I can see that they're all doing 35 and 40 miles an hour. On my way down here tonight, there was a vehicle that slowed down to turn into Clay Pit Road. Somebody who was in a hurry started to go around this vehicle and was in our lane of traffic. Thank God I was not driving because my eyesight isn't that good. But my daughter was driving, and thank God. So, I mean, to put more cars on Ferry Street and truck traffic, I can sit on my porch and watch trucks go by all day long. 10-wheelers, 18-wheelers going in towards Hammer Rock to drop off the restaurant supplies. And it's just to put that many more cars on a street that was never built for this kind of traffic is insanity. You know, even with sidewalks, you're going to have people riding up over sidewalks. But that would be an improvement. My idea would be to make the bridle path a walking path, and school kids could walk along the path to Clay Pit Road, and then from Clay Pit Road, put sidewalks up to Furnace Street, and then from there up there are sidewalks. But to put any more vehicle traffic, and you're talking 112 cars a day at least. So, I mean, it's insane. Absolutely insane. If affordable housing is needed, I suggest the town take the land, turn it over to Habitat for Humanity, and have them build. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. All right, so the next meeting will be on the 9th of January. There'll be no notice for that. We will have our peer review at least started and underway by then. We should have some answers by then. So anyone that wants to come to that meeting.
Motion to continue.
What's that?
Motion to continue.
Oh, I know, I'm gonna. So I'm just letting the public know. So I make a motion to continue to January 9th, 2024.
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Is that 1830 as well?
What's that?
Is that 1830 as well?
Yes.
Time.
No, it'll just be at any point. We start at 6:30. It could be it would preferably be at the end of the night again. Anyone in front of that will go before it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Now, a motion.
Walter.
We don't have anything else, Nancy, right? I continued them. All right, motion to adjourn.
Larry Keane, second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Steve Feeney, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Thank you.
Craft,